Hey kids, it's time for another session of Animation Class Online. In this video I'm going to talk about the class assignment for today. There's going to be another video on this same WordPress page that talks about the homework assignment, so make sure you look at the whole WordPress so you get the class assignment and the homework assignment. Now, for class assignment, you guys did a great job on your turning heads. Most of you turned it in absolutely correctly, and that was great, and we got to see it on YouTube. If you didn't yet, check it out. Some of you had a little trouble getting it quite right, mostly because maybe you didn't watch the video that explained how to turn it in and what I needed from you. So make sure you watch the videos all the way to the end and look at everything that's on the WordPress so that you get things exactly right. All right? Now, the next assignment, class assignment, this is going to be your walk from point A to point B. There's a great explanation and visual underneath this video in the WordPress to explain what I want from the walk from point A to point B. Basically what you're going to do, it's different than the walk cycle. The walk cycle, it was someone walking in place forever and ever and ever if we loop the 8 or 12 drawings, however many you did. But this time, you're going to have your character, and it should be a character from your project, but it doesn't have to be. This is an exercise, so you can extrapolate it any way you like. But what you're going to do is maybe take your character and have it walk across the page, or across the scene. And then it's going to stop and do something interesting, something that incorporates some of your animation words like squash and stretch or action and reaction, or maybe they just look around, see that there's nothing, shrug, and then continue walking. So it's basically going to be your character not walking in place, but walking across the scene, stopping to do something interesting, and then finishing the walk. Now, some of you have characters that are going to fly. So something you could do, as an example, is have your character walk across the scene, stop, and then take off flying. That would count as you're walking from point A to point B. So basically it goes across the scene, but I want it to stop at some point. It could be 2/3 of the way, a third, halfway across, whatever, it's up to you. But have your character do something interesting and then continue on its merry way. All right, that is the class assignment. Now, this is due Friday, April 10th by noon. Of course, you can always turn it in late and you'll still get some credit for it, but you should try to get these things done by the actual due date. Because here's the thing, if you were in class and I was teaching you this assignment, you would be doing it during class. So theoretically, you should be able to get it done within 4 hours. And if you're working at your own pace, you can take breaks, you can work all day on Thursday. I try to post Wednesday evenings so that you could even get a little head start if you like. But basically, this is your Thursday, do it during the day, Thursday class assignment. And get those turned in by Friday at noon. Now, one of the things I had you do last week for the turning heads was give me individual drawings. There was a reason for that, and it was so that I could easily put all of the heads together in one video and make it look really cool, which I think it did. You should look at it if you haven't already. I'll say that again. Look at it if you haven't already. But for this assignment, you're going to try to assemble it yourself. Many of you have already figured out how to do this, and that's great. Some of you might have a little trouble, in which case please email me so we can figure this one out. Another thing I'm going to do is talk about different ways not to shoot, but how to shoot your drawings and how to work around assembling them if you can't control the timing. I'm going to go over that in the homework assignment video, so make sure you watch that video because it can also help you with the class assignments. Now, speaking of class assignments, after this walk from point A to point B, due this Friday, April 10th by noon, there are only 2 more class assignments left. Everything else is going to be homework or work that you could do during class time. You're going to be working on your final project. This is going to be what you do for the rest of the semester, and it's really how the class works or functions normally when we're actually in class. Those last 6 or 7 weeks, we're just animating and shooting and finishing and editing and maybe adding sound or color or whatever it is we want to do. So that's basically what you're going to be doing. So there won't be too many more of these videos, or they'll be really short in the future. So hang in there. You're all doing great. Now, well, most of you are doing great. Some of you, we're going to have catch you up to speed. It'll all be good and it'll all work out. All right, now, as for class again, for today, for this week, besides the walk from point A to point B, I want you to take a little time to look at the rest of our animation words that will show up in the WordPress. It's not imperative that you learn all of these. They're just really interesting and could be helpful to you in the future. And if you're really into animation and filmmaking in general, all of these words are words that will come in handy to you at some point. Now for the rest of you, it'll just be a curiosity. You can learn about it, and that's great. Normally there's a pop quiz on these words, but I think given the circumstances, we probably won't do that. So make sure you check out the words for yourself because they're kind of cool. Some of them are really cool because I'm a nerd and I just think some things are cool. So look at those words and have it explained to you and learn about them. And then finally, be sure to check out the homework video discussing shooting practices. I already mentioned that briefly before, but I really need you to make sure that you watch the homework video from beginning to end, because in that I'm going to talk a little bit about aspect ratio and horizontal versus vertical shooting, and there's just some important information that you're going to get from that, and it's going to be helpful for when you're shooting your final project. It's also going to be helpful for the next 3 class assignments, the one from this week, walking from point A to point B, but also the next 2 class assignments. So pay attention to that, watch the whole video, look at all the little things that, special things that I put up on the side that will explain further what I'm talking about. Now finally, before we end this video for the class assignment, because really the best explanation for walking from point A to point B is in the little demonstration in the WordPress. So make sure you look at the WordPress. But here's something important that I want to go over with you when it comes to supplies. Usually I try to provide paper, and of course that's impossible now because we have to self-isolate. So what can you do? Here's some suggestions. I've gone over this a little bit before, but I have some handy-dandy demonstration guides so that I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, if you're super duper rich and you just have millions of sheets of paper, 8.5 by 11 plain white paper, you can do all your animations on something like this. But make sure when you're drawing that it's horizontal, the long way across. Okay, so this would be up. Now that's if you're super rich and have lots of paper. Not everyone has that. I don't. So what do? Well, let's say you're, have a lot of paper, but not super a lot of paper. What you can do is cut the paper in half. And if you do that, just make sure that if you cut it right in half, and you can fold it first. You don't have to do the dotted lines like I have. This is just for demonstration. You can just fold the paper in half and then cut across so that you basically have 2 halves of a sheet of paper, and then make sure that again the long way goes across and that this way is up. All right, now let's say you don't have a lot of paper, you just have some paper. You can cut it in 4s. We've talked about this before, but I want to demonstrate how it looks so that when you cut it across and then cut each one across this way, you want to make sure that it's still horizontal this way up. All right, and then finally, if you like to draw small and you don't have very much paper, you can always do the 8 pieces, and this is just a little bit smaller than the little tablets of flip book paper that I gave you in the beginning of class. But again, make sure it's longwise and that up is that way. Okay, so those are the different ways that you can do, optimize your paper if you don't have a lot of paper. You can also get at Staples or Office Depot or the 99-cent store if it's open, scratch pads. Most scratch pads, those are like the flip book papers I gave you at the beginning of the class, are about 100 sheets per pad. So that's good. If it's only 50, then you're going to have to double up a little, because here's the idea. If you have 4 scratch pads, each with 100 sheets of paper, that's 400 pieces of paper. I'm only talking about your final project. If you have 300 to 400 drawings, that's going to be a good amount of animation to do. And if you do a good job making things move and you draw 300 to 400 drawings for the rest of the semester, then you're going to be great. You're going to get a good grade, and you're going to be happier with what you produce because you'll actually get to see some animation. And that's a little over 30 seconds worth of animation paper. 360 drawings is exactly 30 seconds of animation. If you do fewer than that, if you do more like 200 to 300, you'll probably pull at least a B in the class, unless your animation, I think, is just so brilliant that I have to give you an A, which I've done in the past, so it is possible. Anything less than 200, you're not really applying yourself, and we'll need to talk about that, but you might pull a C. No one is going to fail this class. The only way to fail is by not turning anything in. And if that's the case, if you're having any trouble, if you're finding that you just don't have time to do the work, or you have too many classes and all the online classes and everything else that's going on is just too overwhelming, let's discuss the possibility of withdrawing this semester and taking the class again another time. But I think most of you are able to do this. I think you're going to, as long as you have enough paper and supplies to work with, you're going to be able to do this. And there's one other way to animate besides on paper. Some of you have a tablet, like an iPad, whatever they're called. If you have one of those, you may use it to do your animation. However, you cannot use any computer extrapolation to go from drawing to drawing. Your drawings, whether it's on the tablet or on a piece of paper, have to be frame by frame. I need to see that you've learned how to make things move from one place to another. How interesting your project is depends on you, but I'm mostly interested in the movement. So if you use an electronic tablet or computer tablet, please don't use any tweening or anything that the computer has available to you, or any apps for that. I want to see things frame by frame. Now, good luck on your class assignment, your walk from point A to point B, with something interesting happening somewhere during the walk. And make sure you watch the homework video. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.